The next is Cattison.
I'm Kat, a detransitioned woman, singer, and molecular biologist. As a child, I was artistic, nerdy, and socially awkward, struggling to find my place in the world. I was subjected to both abuse and bullying beginning in toddlerhood. As a result, I felt alien in my body very early on. If I was a boy, I thought I could protect myself. At 5, I asked my mother if it was possible to change genders, and she said no. For the next 8 years, I disliked my sex, but believed I was resigned to my fate until age 13 when I came across an online forum for transgender people. That day, I began believing that the reason I suffered from anxiety, depression, and anorexia nervosa was because I should have been born male. I read that if one had gender dysphoria, it meant she was trans, and that she was extremely likely to take her own life if she didn't transition. But back then in the mid 2000s, gender affirming culture did not yet exist. My parents, peers, and pediatrician did not affirm me, for which I am now grateful. My cross sex identification persisted until age 17 when my parents took me to a gender therapist. They hoped he would take a holistic approach, considering my many comorbid mental health issues, but he affirmed me as a boy immediately. The therapist began using he, him pronouns for me, and by appointment 3, he suggested I start testosterone. My parents were astounded and did not comply with his recommendations. I was unable to pass as male without any medical interventions, and I temporarily desisted. But my unhealthy beliefs about gender, such as you cannot be happy unless you transition, continued to fester in my mind. After years of rumination, this culminated in me deciding to medically transition. I obtained testosterone by calling Planned Parenthood and was prescribed after just a 30-minute phone conversation. Within months of starting testosterone, I experienced side effects such as liver and gallbladder damage, heart palpitations, and the permanent loss of my natural singing voice. This was what ultimately influenced me to detransition, as I realized appearing as a man was not worth sacrificing my music. But if this hadn't been my tipping point, I might have pursued surgery and come to regret it, as countless others have. If I had been prescribed puberty blockers at age 13, I'd likely be suffering from infertility, osteoporosis, and/or stunted brain development. All gender-affirming care is experimental, lacking controlled studies and sufficient data on its long-term outcomes, so I caution against treating patients of any age in this manner. However, patients younger than 25, when the brain is fully developed, are particularly vulnerable. Because puberty blockers stunt brain and bone maturation, leading to lifelong disabilities, I advocate for the complete cessation of prescribing them to gender dysphoric youth and for no other medical interventions to occur prior to age 25. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Cattison.